Uniform?
And you just want to adjust to where you're at?
Yep.
Does that feel okay to you? You can also, if you want it higher up or whatever you want. After years of having really terrible mic stands, these ones are way better. Way better.
Immediately, I needed to make sure I was adjusting properly and not trying to.
No.
Because I'm just, you're used to having the bad ones. So
Yeah, no, that's exactly the ones that'll topple over.
Yeah.
That's what we had our first summer of outdoor services. For sure. Okay. Mimi. That article was amazing. Her. She's the first woman ordained rabbi, period. And then in the United States, then you get Sally Priesand, who's much later. Yeah. Regina Jonas is the original, but a lot of people write it. It's interesting, that whole article was, I guess, is based on a section they have regularly about overlooked people. So it was just really fascinating, the timing of it. But
oh, wow.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it had a really beautiful history to it. Like, they did a really nice job of it, which was great. I'll just see. Okay, it is 6 o'clock. That's how you know it's Labor Day, apparently, is that it's 6 o'clock and we've switched our services back to 6 o'clock. That's how it works. But it's great to see all of you, and we have really a incredibly beautiful night to celebrate Shabbat together. And of course, we're very happy to have Cantor Kevin back with us again. And as we're doing, as I said, right, we always bring our cantors on slowly. So you'll hear his full repertoire, I'm sure, as we move forward. But we're going to dive right in and light and bless our Shabbat candles. That blessing can be found on page 120 and page 120. It's interesting to light Shabbat candles with the church bells in the background. I was wondering, why hasn't that happened before? And then I remembered the half hour makes a very big difference in the world. So we'll give a moment. That's lovely. I don't know whether our friends watching at home can sense that sound, but
It's a very ominous sound.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll turn now to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together, the very top of the page. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, letzor yishenu, nekadma fanav betodah. Naria, letzor yishenu, mizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena l'Adonai. We're now on page 131, Shiru l'Adonai, which is just in the middle of the page. Shiru l'Adonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo. Basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo. Basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai shiru shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo. Basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo. Basru meyom leyom yeshuato. As we turn to page 132, or Zaru at the very bottom of the page, Cantor Kevin's going to remind us of what we learned for the first time last week, and we'll try to see if we can build upon the momentum.
All right, let's see if anyone remembers what we did last week. Let's start with the first part, the bum biddy bum, just bum bum. Bum biddy 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 bum. I'm getting a lot of confused looks. All right, so there's just those two notes. So bum biddy bum biddy bum biddy bum biddy bum biddy bum biddy bum. Exactly, just keep doing that. Bum biddy 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 bum. Part two. Or zaru ala tzadik u'yishrei lev simcha. 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 Bum biddy 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 bum. Bum biddy 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 bum. You look a lot less confused.
This is the way we build, right? Little by little, little by little. Very nice. We're going to turn now to page 134, Zamru l'Adonai at the very top of the page. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor vechor zimra, bechatzotzrot vechor shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayam umlo, Tevel veyoshveva, Neharot imcha uchaf yachad, Harim yiranenu. Lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim b'mei sharim. Yiram hayam umlo, tevel ve'yoshveva, Neharot imcha uchaf yachad, harim yanenu. Okay, we'll work on that last line.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
that
work
was
on
the
it.
end.
We'll get there.
Got to be honest, right? This is the time of year to be honest. We're on page 135, Romamu at the bottom of the page.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
We'll turn now to Lecha Dodi on page 138, and a slightly different melody, one that you may remember from a while ago. We haven't done it in a while, but we'll let the cantor lead us away. Again, 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 9th paragraphs.
Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabel. Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. יאללה Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yitoreri, yitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori. Uri, Uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alaich nigla. Yalla la 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 Lecha Dodi, Yalla la 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 likrat kala, Yalla la 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 Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Rise in body or spirits.
Boi v'shalom, עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה chala. Yai lecha dodi. Yalla la 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 likrat kala. Yalla la 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 pnei Shabbat. Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Please be seated. We're now on the top of page 140, Mizmor Shir.
Mizmor Shir leyom haShabbat. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי הסור ועלי נבל עלי היון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We turn now to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish, and we rise in body or in spirit. יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ליעלמי העלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו Amen. You remain standing, and we turn eastward, which is roughly that way, for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Please be seated. We are turning now to page 148. We'll read together in English at the very bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo,
Amahari v'aravim. We turn now to page 150, and we'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praised are you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, והם נגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו.
אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, Adonai Echad. Please join us on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We'll read together now on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158. Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba ba ba, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba ba ba, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba ba ba, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba ba ba, ya bye bye bim bam. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקעם לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגולו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu, page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We turn now to the top of page 162. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. עיני ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. Now invite us to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we'll continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, if you are standing, you may be seated. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Say shalom bimromah, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
As we turn now to page 371 to offer our Mishaberach for this evening, we think first of Spencer Levy, Aaron Zweig, Michael Klinghoffer, Amy Cass, Steve Levine, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Tzivia Devora Bat Francis, Deborah Block Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Paul Bat Esther, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriela Rose Spicer, Dina Bat Chana, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klopman, Michoel Ben Chananya, Bensi Tepper, Lorraine Davis, Azal Bat Adel, Erwin Levin, Chana Bat Miriam, Moshe Ben Ephraim Fischel, Devora Bat Sima, Moshe Eliezer Ben Yakutiel, Judy Yang, Jeffrey Miller, Sandy Greenwald, Pat Skionis, Peter Parcher, Jeannie, Eva, Leah, and Pam Levinson, Jody Bernstein, Matthew Agarwal, Leslie Schifrin, Charlie Zweig, Michael Rosenblatt, August Hill, Trish Schapp, Jerry Leibowitz, Rivka Bat Yehuda Vabela, Talia Bat Sandra, and Esther Bat Sarcha. In addition to the names that we just read, we invite those watching at home to add the names of your loved ones as well. Anybody who's with us tonight who would like to add some additional names? We'll join together now in the middle of page 371. Avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Kevin, you can take a break. I think we... Actually, thanks to Bob and Josie, you have chairs. You have two chairs. You can pick from any of those chairs that you would like. Good Shabbos, everyone. So I feel like this is the first time in a while that I've given a Friday night sermon. We've had so many guests and so many other great teachers, so it's nice to have this opportunity. And what I want to speak about tonight is actually born out of our program last night with the eminent Professor Carl Grossman and our conversation on science and religion in Sag Harbor and part of this wonderful series of learning, and our focus on the environment in particular. And I was really struck through the conversation with Carl and really thinking much more deeply about some of the things that I think we tend to think on the surface level about. And it happens to be, just by total coincidence, sheret, kismet, whatever you want to say, that the portion that we're going to read in Shul tomorrow, Parshat Shoftim, is the container of one of the most significant mitzvot that is drawn from this parsha that relates to our responsibilities towards the environment, and not just the environment as we think about it, trees, it's everything, literally everything that we share this world with. So I got into a little bit of this last night, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper as it was fresh in my mind, and especially as we were reading in the Torah about it. So, interestingly enough, one of the most significant mitzvot, as I said, a commandment in which we are meant to be very, very considerate and careful, is known as Baltashrit. Just out of curiosity, how many people have heard of this mitzvah before? Baltashrit. Okay, I was going to say, I figured as much, I would see. So you can look around and see not as many people as you would think about a mitzvah that is actually very important. And this mitzvah, again, is not specific to the environment per se. It's really a commandment about not destroying things wantonly, not destroying things with a capricious attitude. It doesn't mean that we can't use the world around us, but it means that we have to be much more conscientious about why we are doing things and what we are doing with them. And we have to be really, again, much more cognizant of the facts. So the very fact that many of us didn't know this mitzvah before tonight, I hope by the end of tonight we will know it and we will study and we will learn. But its origin point is something somewhat unexpected. It comes from the section, as I said, tomorrow, in which we're reading about the laws of war. So one might not assume, right, laws of warfare would have anything to do with ecology or with the environment or anything of the sort. But the commandment begins from a discussion about what to do when besieging a city. And so the Torah tells us, when in your war against a city, you have to besiege it a long time in order to capture it. You must not destroy its trees, wielding the axe against them. You may eat of them, but you must not cut them down. Are trees of the field to the human to withdraw before you into the besieged city. Only trees that you know do not yield food may be destroyed, and you may cut them down for constructing siege works against the city that is waging war on you until it has been reduced. So what's being described here? So those of you, and I am actually a pacifist by nature, so warfare is not my most easily understood part of life, but we know, especially in the ancient world, when besieging a city, the most common practice was to cut down all of the trees around it, not just for spite, but primarily to use them to build siege works, to build large things that could be used to get over the walls and to attack. And in some cases, to build palisades and things like that to prevent people from coming out. So the Torah tells us that even though that is the most expedient route, even though that is the route that is most likely to result in success of your warfare, we're told that we have to hold back. And in particular, to hold back of things that produce fruit. Why? Fruit does not just magically fall from a tree just because you plant it. It takes time for the fruit to grow, for the tree to mature. You can't expect that it's just going to be that if you cut everything down that the next day that you'll be suddenly flush with food. And while we have the benefit of going to IGAs or whatever it might be to get our food, in the ancient world to cut off access to food would be a terrible idea. So one might think of this commandment as being rather just practical. Okay, if you besiege the city and you conquer it, you're going to need to eat. So if you cut down all the fruit trees, you'll be without fruit. Fine. We could have left it at that and it would have been sufficient. But no. The rabbis take this and they do what they oftentimes do, which is they take a focused idea in the Torah, a verse or two, and they expand it. And they say that actually this is something that we need to consider in more circumstances than just when we besiege a city. Many, many, many centuries later, we have a very important document in the development of rabbinic Judaism, of our halakha, of our way of living our Jewish lives, that is known as the Sefer HaChinuch. Just out of curiosity again, anybody know Sefer HaChinuch? Okay, so this is another good thing. It's an anonymous book. It's 13th century medieval Spain, and it's building off Maimonides' earlier work. And the idea is to take all of the mitzvot that are contained within the Torah and make them intelligible and easy to access. So that when you pick up the book, you want to know what is the 613th mitzvah, you open it up and you go there. And where does it derive from? Most importantly, it derives from the Torah. So they draw a direct line from the mitzvot of the rabbis all the way back to the Torah to its original conception. So what does the Sefer HaChinuch tell us? It says this idea of not destroying the fruit trees, that we have been prevented from chopping down trees when we besiege a city to distress the people of the city and sadden their hearts. This is the first wrinkle. Right, what is the Sefer HaChinuch saying? That it's not just about practicalities. It's also about the message that you're sending to the people that you've besieged. Remember again that in Judaism, warfare is sometimes a necessity, but the way in which we engage in it needs to be thoughtful. And our goal is not to obliterate the people inside the city. It may be to capture the city, it may be to take them as captive, but it's not to destroy them from the inside out. So we're already thinking of it from the perspective of if the people inside the city see their potential conquerors burning the land around them, you can imagine that when the conquest is over, they're not going to be particularly welcoming, to say the very least. So there is an emotional piece of this, a psychological piece of this. And likewise, Sefer HaChinuch says, do not do any damage, such as burning or ripping a garment or breaking a vessel, for no reason, entered in under this negative commandment. In other words, the rabbis again take this idea of just about trees, just about warfare, just about siegecraft, and they say that it's not just about that, it's actually that we shouldn't do anything of the sort. We should not be destroying things. That is the principal idea of Baltashrit. It is the prohibition against wanton destruction with no purpose. So we don't break vessels, we don't tear garments, we don't do even the smallest things, because again, it's not just about the practicalities, there's something more to this. So the Chinuch continues, the root of this commandment is well known. It is in order to teach our souls to love good and benefit and to cling to it. And through this, good clings to us, and we will distance ourselves from all bad and destructive things. And this is the way of the pious and people of proper action. They love peace and are happy for the good of the creatures and bring them close to Torah, and they do not destroy even a grain of mustard in the world. Interesting choice of things. I must be thinking about Knishes. I never really thought of rabbis and mustard as being related in that way, right? But they don't destroy even a grain of mustard, the tiniest grain of mustard. And they are distressed. They are distressed by all loss and destruction that they see. And if they can prevent it, they will prevent any destruction with all of their strength. But not so are the wicked. The brothers of the destructive spirits, they rejoice in the destruction of the world. And they destroy themselves, since in the way that a person measures, so is he measured. Which is to say that he clings to it forever. As the matter that is written in Proverbs, the one who rejoices in calamity will not be cleared of evil. And the one who desires the good and rejoices it, his soul will dwell in the good forever. This, as the Chinuch tells us, is known and famous. So again, small pasuk, very limited function, and yet from it derives a much bigger principle. First, the mitzvah itself of not wantonly destroying, but much larger than that, right? If we're going to follow the path of the pious, of the righteous, they live their entire lives with the perspective that good is born from creation, not from destruction. That even when destruction is necessary, and again, I'll be very clear, Judaism does not say that we cannot cut down a tree to build a shul or a house. It does not say that we can't take the lives of animals to consume them. It simply says that we cannot do them with a capricious nature, with a nature that doesn't appreciate what sacrifice has been made by the animal or by the tree or whatever it might be. But here we understand that it's at the very root of who we are. If we are the kinds of people who will stand by and watch destruction happen, and even worse, to be the kinds of people who watch destruction happen and take joy from it, even of our enemies, that this principally goes against our Jewish soul. It's easier said than done, without a doubt. It is very hard to consider what this mitzvah is actually telling us, what the Sefer Chinuch is actually telling us. Because the simple fact of the matter is that we all waste. We all destroy unnecessarily. We do it in physical ways, we do it in psychological ways, we do it in emotional ways. War is oftentimes necessary, especially for our history as we know it and our present reality in the state of Israel. Sometimes it is absolutely necessary, but we must understand that it is never unhinged. It can never be a war, for example, of passion. It cannot be destruction for the sake of enjoyment. It needs to be understood that when something has to be destroyed in its original form, that we do so again with a consciousness and with an awareness that if we are not careful, if we become too comfortable with this idea that we can destroy so that we can be more comfortable, it is a very significant and very dangerous slippery slope in which suddenly all things, all people, all animals, the world that we share, become vehicles for our enjoyment, for our pleasure. This is antithetical to the Jewish way of thinking. So I will leave us with the words of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who was known as the Ramak. He lived around the 1500s, primarily and is a significant figure in Kabbalah and in the development of Kabbalistic thought in 16th century Sfat in the land of Israel. And he points to this sort of way of thinking about the world, and even something as simple as an inanimate rock. He says, the essence of divinity is found in every single thing. The essence of God is found in every single thing. Nothing but it exists. Since it causes, right, it being God, since God causes everything to be, nothing can live by anything else. It enlivens them. Its existence exists, and each existent. Do not attribute duality to God. Let God be solely God. If you suppose that the Ein Sof, the ultimate emanating force in Kabbalah of God spreading into all of the world, emanates only until a certain point, and then from that point on out, it is outside of it, you have dualized, you have created two entities of God. God forbid, says the Rabbak. Realize, rather, that the Ein Sof exists in each existent, in other words, in each entity that exists in the world. And do not say this is just a stone and not God. I wish I had a stone to point to, okay? Pick one around you. Don't look at that stone and think that it is simply an inanimate object and not related to God. God forbid, he says. Rather, he emphasizes that all existence is God, and the stone is a thing pervaded by divinity. So this is one of those alachad kama v'chama ideas in rabbinic thought, which means if you can apply this concept to a rock, all the more so, right, to a living entity, an animal, a person, the beauty around us, if you don't see God in the trees and you don't see God in the rock, then really you're going to have a hard time seeing God in people and in nations and all manner of things. Sometimes we have to start with the smallest concept and build from there. And that's what the rabbis are really excellent at doing. So our takeaway for tonight should be fairly obvious. And if you need some time with a true ecologist, someone who really understands the threats that we are facing as humanity, talk to Professor Grossman over here. I'm going to have a recording of last night's proceedings to share with us later this week. But principally is to understand and remember this mitzvah that very few of us knew going into tonight. Baltashrit means don't take this world and its divinity for granted. Do not take the things that we can easily build up and yet we destroy for granted. Each of us has a role to play in this, and each of us, no matter how we may think of ourselves, has work to do with this particular mitzvah. And to try to figure out what in my life am I needlessly destroying? What in my life can I get more out of? What am I a part of on the bigger scale that I can raise my voice in opposition to? These are Jewish concepts. These are part of our soul. And we need to embody them, we need to embrace them, we need to live them. And it begins really with studying the texts themselves and really diving in. So I thank you for your consideration. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and we'll keep working, certainly. But Professor Grossman, thank you for last night. It really was a great treat and a great privilege. So we'll welcome Cantor Kevin back up to our, not bima, something. We'll come up with another word for it. And we'll rise and body our spirit as we turn to page 586 at the very bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, Latet Gedula L'Yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoyei Haratzot, Velo Samanu Kemishpechot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, V'gor Aleinu Kechol Amonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. Now ask those who are in mourning or observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who passed in our community in recent months. Martin Blake, Lynn Cowan, Faith Diskin, Linda Donath, Arlene Eber, Jay Fagan, Ellen Frank, Chaim Bear Greenwald, Gerald Hirsch, Mark Joseph, Jane Beard Cass, Gertrude Katz, Buddy Kossoff, Elaine Krotman, Emmanuel Kiprios, Leo Leibowitz, William Lipman, Sandra Tromberg Luongo, Norma Paulsek, David Senf, Anita Sheldon, Alan Silver, Larry Wartor, Peter Weinstein, and Matthew Adam Zimmerman. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Francis Ariowich, Joseph Auerbach, Reuben Becker, Doris Blasenheim, Rose Blutt, Herman Brown, Ruth Brown, Frank Decker, Samuel Diner, Jesse Epstein, Irving Fisher, Henry Friedlander, Irving Ginsberg, Hazel Greenspan, Herman Halpern, Harold Heyman, Lois Nash Cowder, Leo Kelmanson, Ruth Kelmanson, Jack Kurtzman, Romana Koplovich, Lawrence Kopp, Lillian Levitt, Sarah Meyer, Nancy Nagel, Madge Judith Parcher, Seki Rice, Samuel Meyer Shockett, Morris Tanzer, Irma Tyson, Benjamin Weiss, and Betsy Wolf. Is anyone else with us tonight saying Kaddish for someone that we didn't mention? Deborah? And we'll invite the mourners to join us on page 598 at the very top of the page. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Zichronam Livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Okay, good Shabbos, everyone. So I just want to apologize if anybody got here and I was a little for toots. I apologize. Our wonderful hosts here had a celebration to celebrate the painting of the front of the church, which is really quite lovely, and just some mixture of they thought we were still starting at 6:30. So in any case, I'm sorry. It's the time of year again. It's comfortable to say I'm sorry, but I'm happy to see all of you, and I'm really happy that we had this wonderful, beautiful night. And Cantor Kevin already starting to just fit right into the groove. So we're very happy to have you, and very happy to have you join us for Shabbat services tomorrow morning, beginning at 9:30. If you want to join us here in person, we're in the chapel, so you're going to enter through the side of the building over here, and we'll also, of course, have our Torah study at 12 o'clock tomorrow as well on Zoom. And this being the first Shabbat of the month, we will have our Torah study using the Torah, a women's commentary, and it'll be facilitated this month by Emily Kutash. So again, please join us. All are welcome, 12 o'clock on Zoom. Also, a reminder coming up this week that there are no offices closed on Monday. My class is moved from Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock, and all the rest of the Monday things, although I shouldn't speak for Niddah Mitzvah. Niddah Mitzvah happening? So I was going to say, on Labor Day, you deserve a break, right? That's the laborers deserve a break, certainly. So Monday will be off. On, I think it's Thursday. It says here Tuesday, but I believe it's Thursday, is the docent-led tour of the Montauk Lighthouse. If it is Tuesday, then I'm glad I know that now. And we'll be joining everybody 10:30, and we'll meet at the Montauk Lighthouse. For those that would like to join us afterwards, we're going to have a light lunch at the cafe that's there on the premises. And again, even if you've been there before, you haven't been there with me, so come along. We'll have a good time, I promise. And also a reminder, a week from this Sunday, September 11th, we are back at Harbor Fest, which is this wonderful gathering we have in Sag Harbor just down on the docks. And I think this year, actually, the Steinbeck Park will also be a part of it. So we're going to have our little tent set up from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We are very much looking for volunteers to help sit, at least for a little while, to, show off what you love about the temple. So if you have a few minutes on Sunday and you can help us, we're going to send up a sign-up sheet, and we really appreciate it. Again, whatever time that you could give us would be appreciated very much. And also a reminder, later this month, the tour of the Halleckville Museum and Farm. We have another great film shul course. This one is titled Gangsters, Gonuffs, and Goons. We picked this one. I was thinking of Neil's buddy. It's just that was the first thing that jumped to mind. We have very good attendance for whatever reason when we have things about mobsters. I don't know what that says, but we'll see whether this plays out or not. But film shul has been a great chance to learn about great movies, and really it's been a lot of fun. And also we have just added, I don't think it was in the calendar, but we just added it, a virtual tour from Tel Aviv, from what used to be called Beit HaTfutzot. It is now known as ANU, the Museum of the Jewish People. And they have done a program, I think, on the high holidays celebrated around the world. So it's a virtual tour, but it's a very cool thing. So again, to join us for that. And a reminder that the first step in the high holiday season is the service of Slichot. So this year, we're going to do Slichot actually online, and there's a purpose for that, which I will explain for those that will come. It is the 17th, beginning at 8 o'clock in the evening. It's a little bit on the later side, but we're going to survey Slichot experiences from around the world. And I'm told that Cantor Kevin knows a little bit about Slichot, because I believe you were at the Great Synagogue doing some Slichot stuff, I think. So
I was.
We'll see if we can pull him in for a little bit of that as well. Otherwise, obviously, a lot of high holiday information that will be coming your way very, very shortly. Some of our logistical announcements, of course, if you could bring your prayer books or Sidurim back over to Bob and Josie over here, that would be greatly appreciated. And what's that? Oh, yeah, and Cantor Kevin has something as well. I'll just finish the thought. And remember, again, as we're leaving the parking lot, be extra careful if you can. If you borrowed a chair and you're able to bring it back over, great. If it's physically too hard for you, just leave it right where it is, and I'll go and grab it. And if you give me 2 minutes, I'll pull all this stuff out of the way so everyone can safely get out this way. And, of course, don't forget, we have challah and we have ragalach. Everybody's been leaving without taking it. We get it for you. We take it. It's good. It's delicious. Right? Bob and Joe say it's great, so that's good. Cantor Kevin, you have something to share with us as well.
Yes, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shameless plug that on this upcoming Wednesday, September, I believe it's 7th, at 10:30, I will be giving what's called a practicum. So once a year, all of the cantorial students, each individual cantorial student gets to deliver about a 30-minute presentation on a certain topic. So I'm currently working on Unetane Tokef as part of the High Holiday Liturgy for Rosh Hashanah. So I'll be giving about a 30-minute really presentation, and I will be singing about 25 minutes of music, and I have about a 5-minute iyun. I'm hoping to bring some of that in also for our Rosh Hashanah services. But I would love if any of you want to join. There'll be a link hopefully sent out in an email, a Vimeo link, and anyone is welcome to come and watch. And that'll be again on September 7th, Wednesday at 10:30 a.m.
Great. Just out of curiosity, if people are in the city, are people able to come in person these days?
Yeah. If you're in the city, feel free to
West
come
4th
to
and
HCC.
Broadway.
Yep.
West 4th and Broadway. So if anyone wants to know more about that, you let us know. But we're going to send the link out to the congregation so you'll have it. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
So we're going to conclude our service with Shalom Aleichem on page 627 and then Kiddush. So again, page 627.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we'll rise for Kiddush on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikraei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'veratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat Amen. L'chaim, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thanks again for coming. And remember, Baltashrit, don't waste. Come eat some challah. Very important. You're good.
Shkoyach.
All right. Check this down.